Okay, I think we're good to go. Hi guys,
Hello.
how are you?
Howdy, howdy.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Um, we have Pavlos and me, and then we have our good friend Justin, who also former artsy, and definitely had a lot of like good experience with the classic artsy show and tell, which is like the experience that we Pavlos and
Recreating.
myself and John and Jackie, all of us like miss that experience. So just trying to recreate it. Justin, how have you been?
But okay. The world's weird right now. My career is weird right now. But
Yeah,
other than all of those very strange things, I've been good. You know,
you're able
Good,
to
weird,
navigate.
or
eh, eh, you know, is what it is.
It's the weird that you have.
Yeah, not the weird
Your
that you
own
want, but
your
the
own
weird that you
flavor.
have.
yeah, great. Yeah,
Pablo, how have you been?
yeah. I've been alright. I've been busy with a bunch of work stuff, but handling it. I'm kind of looking forward to a time in the next month or two that things will be a little bit more chill. But yeah, good, good. Can't complain.
You're by the sea today, next to the sea
Yeah,
out your
today
window.
I'm by the sea. I don't know. Should I show a little bit?
Yeah, you
I guess
should show us because it looks really nice.
it does look
That's
really nice.
amazing.
I would show
Yeah.
you my wall, but it's not worth it. Cool.
But yeah, I've
So
been
I
good.
guess. Oh, good.
Wait, how have you
Um,
been, Steve?
I've been okay. I went to the physical therapist this morning for some issues that I've been having, like all both like sports related injury types of things.
Hmm,
So I
like
got
running?
some good information about that, and I'm happy to be able to hopefully resolve some of those issues, which will keep me like being able to run, being able to lift weights, all that stuff. And then I'm headed to
Nice.
DC next week, Washington, DC, to watch my daughter compete in a mock congressional hearing national championship. So that should be really, really fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Sounds awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Will you be
Okay.
in there? Will you like see the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay, that's cool.
We're
That's nice.
so yes. The other three of us in the family will be traveling separately from the team, and then we're staying in a separate hotel also. But then we'll still be able to watch them compete.
That's cool.
Go watch them
Nice.
compete for like it's like I don't know 3 hours something like that. They'll be there for 2 of the days, possibly three if they do really well.
Nice.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Cool. So show and tell. One of the things that we like to do here, on these Friends with Code show and tells is basically just start off with kind of a round of sizing, t-shirt sizing, just so that we get a sense of what do you have to show us and how long do you think it will take, so that we can make sure that everybody gets enough time. So I'll just start and say that I have something to show. It is something I've already shown, which is the aerospace um, window tiling manager. Uh,
Mm.
which I've been using for my development environment and just really, really love it. I haven't actually shown it, demonstrated it in the past because I have problems um, uh, basically sharing my screen and running aerospace at the same time on one particular computer, which is the computer that I use for these streams. And that's kind of a pain. So every time we get together to do this, I turn off aerospace, and that makes it hard to demonstrate it. But I did record a bunch of very short, like 30-second, 45-second videos of the like 9 different things that I do with it.
Nice.
And then we can look at some of the code. I think since the last time I showed it, there's been more commands that I've written, custom written, to do some things that Pavlos, you mentioned you've been hoping to be able to do, and I'm hopeful that that kind of like
Yeah.
gives you a good demo of how you could use it if you wanted to. So I think that's like a probably a medium. I think I could go through those. I could definitely get through those all those videos within like 15, 20 minutes, something like that. Pavlos, how about you?
I have like three. One is super tiny, which is just a small macOS thing. And the other two, I'd say small to medium, something like that. Just like little tools and commands that I found and tweaked a little bit and use a lot. Yeah, Justin.
Yeah, I'm still kind of thinking about what I want to show. I think I have just like two small things, small to medium, I guess. Two like frameworks and like libraries that I'm using more and more these days, which are pretty interesting. And I'm just like, I'm starting to think a lot about like personal software development and like shipping independent projects and like the kinds of things
Nice.
that like help do that. And so I'll talk about some of the tools that I'm thinking about in that space.
Okay, here's my
Okay.
proposal for how we structure this. It sounds like I have the biggest one. I think I should save my bigger one for the very end, and the two of you should ping pong between your smaller to medium sized things. And then once we get to about maybe like 40 past the hour, then I'll take over and kind of show the aerospace stuff. How does that sound to people?
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. I could probably like batch mine together because they're somewhat related and do it in maybe like 10 minutes ish.
Okay.
It's not going to be, not going to be super long. I'm mostly going to just be like teasing stuff and letting you all look into it more as you want.
Okay.
If that sounds good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds great. Pavlos, what do you think about going first? Since Justin just kind of made all this stuff up on the fly and probably maybe wants a little
Okay.
bit of a couple minutes to think about it. Does that work for you?
Okay. Yeah. So I can start with the super tiny one, maybe, or like one of the small ones, and we go from there. Okay. Okay. So let me share. So the first thing I can talk about, which is the tiny one, is actually so you all use Mac OS, and you've seen this situation. So I use the Finder in this like column thing, right? And I'll go to one specific folder, for example, which, sorry, let me, like, talking at the same time is hard. All right, there we go. So, for example, I go in here, right? And then I'm here, and all of these are like dot, dot, dot. And it's super annoying, and I can't like, I have to double click here to make it like fit. And I wish that Finder had a thing, an option, a preference that tells it to like always be wide. And I found this alternative to Finder, which is QSpace Pro, which is like a demo trial thing. But like if I open up a new one, it actually does this, and it's super nice. I mean, you can believe me, but I can demonstrate it. But like, yeah, even if this is down to here, whatever, I click it, and then it actually is expanded. Um, and they do have it as like an option here. I think it's this column view width. So yeah, nothing amazing. It's just something that like, the next time I open that folder on that Finder replacement, it's gonna be wide enough. But the next time I open it on Finder, it's not going to be. So I go like this, and then it's the same, and I have to double click again. So yeah, that's one tiny thing. I really like that preference that it exists now, and hopefully Finder will at some point steal it.
That's
So
like a
that's
super tiny, seems like such a super tiny thing, but
yeah,
also all seems like the kind of really annoying paper cut that you have to deal with
yeah,
every day. That it's nice to see
100%,
somebody actually resolve that. Can I ask you a question
100%.
about it?
Yeah.
Were those settings that you showed, were those all for QSpace?
Yes, this one. Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
so many options.
Yes. And
Holy
like
cow.
it also starts in a layout like this. So like the first time you open it, it's this chaos, and I'm like, this is way too much. But like, yeah, it has a bunch of settings. It also has some things that like, who cares, like syncing and stuff. So like, I'm sure it does more than it could. But like, it's kind of cool that it has so many customizations and stuff, right? Like Finder has too little and this has maybe too many, but I just care about this one.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I always thought that like Finder, I don't know, the experience of Finder has like never been that great to me. Like it really confused me the first time I used OS X, because it's like I can't like actually find anything. Like, and still to this day, it's like I
Yeah.
search for files and like I know they're
Mhm.
on here somewhere, but like
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, that was a really tiny one. Are you ready to show us something, or should I go on with a second one?
you keep rolling.
Yeah, okay. So the next one I had was this, that I found this project a couple of a week ago maybe, and it's called Project Do. And the whole idea is that it shows you, like, it can detect what tool they call it is used in a file, in a folder, or like a repo, and then you can run B or R or T to just like compile or run or test or whatever. So in theory, like, they have support for a bunch of things here, right? So like, if you're in a Node application, or like a Rust application repo or whatever, you can just do B and it should build, or like R and it should run, and like guess the right thing. And I really like this idea, because lately I've been jumping from project to project, and there's like one with Yarn and one with Bun and one with like Rust and one with whatever else. So yeah, like if I made, I guess I can show you, like, okay, let's go to I don't know, like this one, right? So if I do I think it's project do. So this is not how I normally do it, but I'll just show you. I can do run, and yeah, well, it didn't find it. Okay, fun. Let's say like this. Okay, well, I do have my tweak, which is just R, and it definitely does work. So I can show you how this works, I guess. Okay, so let's open up the R command. So this is my little extra wrapper. So I have this command to run, which is the project do run, which should find it here. But actually, this one does use bun, and they don't support bun yet. So I guess if I go to, let's say, this one, should be, yeah, if I do project do run, yeah, it does find it. So yeah, because it doesn't support ban yet, and I wanted to make a PR for this, I was like, okay, let's just fix it for me. So yeah, this is by default, but then I do have some specific like folders that I give it, where like this, it would never guess this, right? Like that I have to run make dev watch for a specific thing to run, but I do want it to be able to. So I just made a little a wrapper that, like, if I'm in that folder, just do this whenever I hit R, and if I'm in any other folder, just try and guess. And it's been working pretty nicely. So like, yes, they don't support ban yet, but like for this one, this would have guessed it. I just added it here to like be sure. And it's been working pretty nicely. Like now I just, when I open the backend and the front end for a project, I just hit R in one, R in the other one, in two terminals, and it works great. If I jump to like another project, R, and it's done. And then I also added another command, which is I, which I can show you here. Which is supposed to be like the install, like the yarn install or bun install or whatever. And it does the same thing, but it's using this project do tool, which this is replaced basically, but like by like npm or yarn or bun, or well, not bun yet, but or cargo or whatever, and then you just give it the next argument. So yeah, it's been pretty nice, this project. I like how it what it can do by itself, and with my wrapper to include bun, I think that's perfect. So yeah, I don't know. That's it.
I love
Nice.
it.
That's awesome.
npm run dev versus npm start is like my nightmare. Knowing which
Yeah,
one I'm going to be
exactly.
using, like I hate that. Is it
Exactly.
so when is it doing any sort of like inspection of like the
Yeah.
package
So
JSON, or is it just going based off of
not
like
about JSON, it's looking for log files. So if you like, it's looking for either yarn.log or like package.json or PNP, whatever it is called or whatever. So yeah, and I looked at the code a little bit, and it looked pretty simple. So I feel like doing the PR for adding bun should be like a 5-line change or something like that, you know. So I will definitely do it to add this, but I do like my little wrapper to like include this weird like make dev watch, because how it's supposed to like guess that, right? But it would guess that cargo is there or make is there. It would just wouldn't know what to run.
yeah,
So yeah,
Nice.
yeah, I really like that idea. And as you saw, like I opened my editor with just CC or something. So I do like my my 1 to 2 letters, shortcuts in the terminal. Yeah.
That's sweet. That
very
inspires
nice.
me to show a very similar one. So
Perfect.
Justin, do you want to share?
cool. Yeah. Maybe I can just go off of the back of that one. So there's a tool that I picked up recently that I have been, let's see, share window, share this window. All right, cool. There's a tool that I picked up recently that has changed my workflow completely. It's called mise en place, whatever. Yeah.
Could I
mise en
ask that you
place.
just bump your
Oh,
font
sure.
size one,
Yep.
maybe one or
And
two
it's
levels
also
bigger?
only showing the window. So let me stop sharing real quick and then.
See, was it last stream or the stream before that Zaki had the same title for the
Yes,
like
exactly. But
completely
it's something
different
completely
thing.
different.
That's
And I
funny.
saw the title, and I was like, yes, show this tool, but it wasn't. But now we get to see it.
Yep.
Window.
Yeah, and I remember when she told us that that's
Okay.
what she was going to talk about. I thought that that's what it was going to be. But it's great.
All right. Cool. So yeah, this is the tool. I actually did a DevTools FM episode with the author of this tool, and it's like really, really fantastic. So the tool is like kind of two things. Let me just get to the docs. Yeah, so it's a dependency manager like ASDF. So if you want to install like Node or Ruby or Python or Cargo for Rust or like whatever your dependencies are, so it like installs that, and it's got a task runner. So I'm not going to really go through all this. I'll just like show you an example. So here's a project that I'm working on. There's like a tools section. These are the binaries that are installed. So it's Node. I even have it like where it can install some like global Node dependencies. So like when you do mise install, it like installs all these things, and it has PNPM for the project. So when somebody
Didn't know
clones
that you can do that.
yeah, all they have to do is like mise install, and they get like all this stuff free, and then it has all these like deploy tasks and stuff. One really great thing that I used to do a lot in my own dot files is I would like add a local node modules .bin alias. So, if I wanted to use like Wrangler in this project installed in node modules.bin, I would have to do like, you either have to do like node modules. I'm sorry, this is small. Node modules.bin/Wrangler, if it's in there. Well, it's not installed as a dependency, but regardless, like there's this .bin directory, and there's like usually stuff in there. So it's like if I wanted to run like esbuild, for example, or like TSX would be like a really common example. You'd have to like do something weird, or like npm run TSX or whatever. But anyway, now I can just like do TSX, because this thing like modifies the path while I'm in there to add the node modules.bin, like only while I'm in the project, and when I leave the project, it's like out from my shell. So this is like a cool example, but just to show you the sort of power of it, I have this like WebView project that I will just show you really quick. I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds here, but this is a really complicated one. So this project has Dino. I'm working on Gleam. It's got Rust. It's got Python. You know, like a bunch of different languages. And if you had to like figure out all these things and install everything, it'd be crazy. But all you have to do is like mise install, and then these are your tasks that you can run. So I can do like mise run and just hit enter, and it gives me a list of like all the tasks in the project. And you know, like I can just like do build or whatever. So anyway, it's a really great tool. Highly recommend it. Very similar to kind of I use it in similar ways as to what you use. And I guess one like final thing I'll show on this is I have this ability to do like I think this is right. Something like this. I don't know. I've got a git ignore set up where I can like create a local. So even if a project doesn't support it, I can create it and use it for myself or whatever. But anyway, I haven't really used that too much recently.
Nice,
but
okay.
all my projects use this. So yeah, it's great. Working on these.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Do you have a VS Code like extension for this type file type? Because I see some
absolutely.
like watches and runs and like
Yeah. So if like in this project, if I want to like run the dev version, I can run it. It like runs dev, like you know. I use it for some things, like it can automatically set up the paths to tools in VS Code for you if you want.
Okay.
That's a little tricky. There's some like nuance involved. I don't think I have time to go into. But
okay.
Yeah.
And if there's a new version, does it tell you that there's like
it'll
a higher
automatically
version?
upgrade it for you? Yeah.
Okay, because that's why I see the little comment. Okay, nice. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I saw that Brian also said that they're thinking of switching, and yeah, definitely. Like, I feel like Mise is just the ASDF in like version 2, you know?
It definitely is a vast improvement over ASDF, and I use it for everything all the time. It's pretty incredible. Also, it's like a lot more powerful than like package.json scripts, because they can run in parallel and they can have dependencies, and there's like all these things. You can like cache the commands based on the output. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it.
Okay. I've never used the tasks. Can you actually do like concurrent things? Like I know that there's this concurrently or whatever in package scripts, right? And the writing them is just a pain with all the quotes and like slashes and like whatever. Can you do something like this here, or is it's basically just CLI commands, right? I'm guessing.
No, you can definitely do things parallel. So if I go back to WebView and open this back up, I mean, I have some like I have some very parallel tasks. I mean, I have a lot of like pretty complicated things. So let's see. One of the things that you can do is like I'll have.
Oh, I see that some of them are arrays. That's the thing that's run in parallel.
Yeah. So like I had this like lint task, and I'd specify that like, oh, I want all the like lint commands of this pattern to be a dependency of this, and when I run task lint, it like runs all the subsequent one at the same time. So if I do lint, yeah, you can see, and it's like outputting the command
really nice
prefix for all of the ones that it's running at the same time. And again, like I could just like find whatever command that I wanted. Nice. I don't know. Highly recommend it. It's changed my workflow. It's wild.
Nice.
Those are all the things you're
Definitely.
talking about trying to do with concurrently, right, Pavlos? Like try to get them color
Yeah.
coded so that you can
Yeah.
tell which one is which. Yeah, that is a nightmare. That does look
Like
really
I
nice.
remember there was this NPS, I think, which was like this node packet scripts or something that was like a separate thing, and it was a little bit easier, but the setting or the setup of it was just a little bit of a pain.
Yeah.
And this one looks super nice, and like I already use that tool for dependencies, so like might as well start using it for tasks if it's making everything easier and better.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
it's
showing
really
that.
great. Cool. Do you mean to switch to the next one, or?
Yeah, I guess the only thing I was gonna add on here is just I have also like migrated locally from ASDF to Mies. Um, and for me, the biggest issue with ASDF was just like it seemed like every single plugin or whatever they call it, every single node versus
Mm.
Go versus whatever, every single one of those had a different API, and it's just like super hard to figure out what the actual command is
Yeah.
that I would want to run to install a version of something or
Yeah.
to even see what versions are out there. And it's been a lot easier since I've been using Mies to basically do that without having to like fumble through 13 incorrect commands.
Yeah. Yeah. These is it's really
Yeah.
incredible, honestly.
And one thing to
You're,
add is definitely that I was missing so ASDF, or maybe there was a feature of some other thing that was used by ASDF. They had this dot something defaults or something. So I remember for Ruby, you could have like default gems or default whatever, and it would install in any version that you install. And I was missing that in Miz, and I don't know if like I think some of the like plugins or whatever support it and some don't. But the way that you showed Justin, with is like npm double dot whatever,
Yeah.
it just works. So like might as well just use that and have that in my global, like in my home folder. So I'll definitely just do that and be done with this. Like it's just a more global general way to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Highly recommend it.
Nice.
Cool. I'll switch over to the next one really quick. I'll try to make these pretty fast. The next thing that I want
take
to
your
talk
time,
about.
Justin. Like you're our special guest here, so like as much time as you want, you get.
Cool.
We'll work around you.
The next thing I want to talk about is something that has been on my mind a lot, really since Artsy, honestly. So in the Artsy days, we had a few Elixir services, lovingly put together by Ashkan. And the whole actor model thing was always like really fascinating for me. I've bounced off the Erlang ecosystem multiple times though, and I'm still like struggling to get into it. And TypeScript is my like bread and butter. So I'm back in the TypeScript world, and I found this open source framework called Actor Core. It's by this company called Rivet. Their company is rivet.gg. Really interesting thing about this company is it's like they were like mostly game developers. And so they come at this from like the game developer perspective, but they're thinking about like how can we make it easier to make like multiplayer services and things. But I've been thinking about like building products. And it's like how can I make it easier to build and orchestrate products and like add features and like have good security and like not concern myself so much with like database and like all these things, like the promise of serverless, but like the reality is we have state everywhere. And that's what this framework is. It's stateful. It's like stateful serverless, if you will. And I think like this example is like plenty good. It's like you have a chat room, you have some state, it's automatically persisted in the background, and some actions to act on that state. Very similar to the startup that I was doing last year called Membrane. It's like in that realm, but this is like an open source framework that can deploy to like many different services. So it can have a Redis backend. It can just deploy on the Rivet like hosted infrastructure. It can deploy on like via Cloudflare durable objects, like whatever. This API is like significantly simpler than durable objects though. And maybe just to show like an example, so I'm building a side project Saturday site. and I have some actors in it. So a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. So like I set up some environment variables from Cloudflare because that's where I'm deploying this. Set my state. Like this is code. This is an actor to control like the door to the event site. So I can like mark it as unlocked, and then someone can request. It's like, hey, open the or buzz me in, and it'll like buzz them into the event. And like, there's like nothing complicated here, but it's like I don't really have to use a database, and it's like very simple to sort of like plug all this stuff together. And I've got one that I'm working on to like send emails, like event emails, and I'm doing like user verification and like being able to subscribe and unsubscribe and like, but essentially what I want to have is like a whole email service as an actor that you could just like plug into your, site. And this is the real like sort of gem of what I'm getting to is like I want to build. It's almost like a microservice, but not really. But it's like encapsulated of like, oh, this will handle this part of your business, and then you can like plop that in other products, and it's like I don't have to rebuild this every time. Yeah, anyway, that's Actor Core. I definitely recommend checking it out, especially if you're like thinking about building a game or something. It's like incredibly easy to do a multiplayer backend on it. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. How? So does this require some kind of like registration, and then they handle some like backend bit or something, or like some I don't know, sockets or whatever, or how does that, or is it just like peer-to-peer kind of thing? Or am I just confusing too many concepts?
It depends on the infrastructure that you deploy it to. But ultimately, this is a sort of a framework for building. Yeah, it's a framework for building actors, and these actors are isolated, and they have like concurrency guarantees. So it's not peer-to-peer. There is a server service that is involved. So like, it might be a durable object, it might be Rivet, it might be a node server, it might be some other server running Redis or whatever. But there is a server involved, or a serverless thing involved somehow.
Nice.
But yeah, they got some really great examples. The founders are very nice and are doing incredible work. And like, I'm hoping that this like makes some common app development processes just simpler, which is like kind of something that I'm on these days.
I think it's funny to hear you talk earlier about, not funny, it's just different strokes for different folks. Here you mentioned earlier that you have kind of like not really felt the Erlang or Elixir thing resonate with you. I'm like the opposite. I totally have never been able to understand actor models, but Elixir is like completely the language that I want to be writing with every moment that I can. So, yeah.
I mean,
I'd love
that's
to
the
know
thing,
more
right?
about
It's
all
like
this. Yeah.
all actors under like I still haven't supervisor trees just still like I get it, but I don't get it. Like I don't know. I just haven't really built something serious like a production app with it yet, and I think that's the thing that I have to do. But
yeah, definitely, that makes such a big difference.
Yeah. Last thing I'm gonna talk about, and I'm not actually gonna spend very long on this. I've been really obsessed with this idea. So there's this library called Affection, another library that I had as a guest on the podcast. I've been doing like a lot of like computer science research on this topic of structured concurrency, because like, I use JavaScript the most. JavaScript in some ways has like these really great asynchronous primitives. It's like runtime is very novel. It like lets you think about like certain problems very simply. But there are these like really like just terrible bugs under the hood. And like the sort of like seminal example of like what Affection allows you to do is like, I don't know, maybe it's like better to like show you an example of like something that they have implemented. Yeah, so this like sleep function. It's like affection's kind of weird. It like uses JavaScript generators, and so it's making like these functions that can sort of yield the results and then resume later, and it builds like async primitives around this. Which under the hood, a lot of the async await code kind of runs on these same primitives. You just don't like see that. The thing about affections like async model is like it's cancelable, one, and it's scoped, which is the sort of delimited part of the continuations model. So that means like if you have like a chain of things, and if you have like a promise or a effect that is canceled, all the sibling effects that are also ongoing will also be canceled, and that cancellation can sort of like roll up to the point where it's handled. Instead of like what would happen, if you did a promise.all with a bunch of fetches and one of those fails, you leak all the other promises. They are like still going, and you can't actually do it. You like can't, unless you do like an abort controller and you pass in the signal to all of them and whatever. I'm not like really pitching this as like, oh, everybody should use this. It like takes some time to wrap your head around, and it is like promises are everywhere in JavaScript especially, and it's like hard to like morph to this API. So last thing, I'll just like show a little code example of like some effects that I'm working on. So this like is a fetch function that uses effects, the effects library. They have this like action where you just take anything and make it effect. And an action like looks kind of like a promise. It gets resolve and reject, and then it returns like a cleanup function. And essentially, like you're guaranteed that when this thing goes out of scope, when fetch goes out of scope, or it's like no longer referenced, then the cleanup function will be called. And in here, I do all the like nasty stuff to like create an abort controller and like pass it to the fetch, and then whatever. And it just makes it like where you can just be guaranteed if you did like like an all in the effects library and like one of those canceled, they're all going to cancel, and you don't have to think about it. It's just like that's just going to get taken care of. Yeah, there's like one I think really good example. Let me use this somewhere. Sorry, last thing. Okay. Well, yeah, I'll just like show this one example to kind of like show you the power of it. So I have this timeout effect here, and it's like spying a new scope. So it's kind of like running on its own thing. And this thing like sleeps for, however long you configure it. And then after the sleep, it'll throw a timeout error. And I'm just like spawning it at the start of this retry with back off function. So it's like kicking off this thing. And if it gets done and this retry with back off exits, then that timeout will be canceled. It'll be cleaned up because I've spawned off another thing and that thing never finished. But if it doesn't, then it'll fail. And so like to add a timeout to any operation, all I have to do is just like plop this thing in there, and I've automatically got a timeout. And there's no like, I know you can do a lot of stuff with like set timeout or whatever, but like I don't really have to worry about it. Anyway, it's interesting. It's definitely changing how I'm thinking about like error handling and concurrency and all that stuff, and not the simplest, but like I don't know, it does yield a lot of really niceties. But that's it. That's all I got.
Interesting. It does look like a lot, but it does like it does feel a bit powerful, like you were saying. Interesting.
Yeah, if you've tried like effect.ts, have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never tried it, and that was my next question. Like, is this how much of this is effects and how much is like affection? I guess.
Yeah, like effect.ts tries to reinvent the world. It like does everything. It does concurrency, it does error handling, it does like how you orchestrate your app, like all this stuff. Like when you're writing with effect.ts, you were writing in a fundamentally different style. And affection is just like, we want to be a library to help you replace promises with something safer. So that's like really their goal, and they kind of zoom in on that. It is still a lot to wrap your head around, but I find it a lot more manageable and digestible than trying to go through effect, which is like rethink everything that you know about programming in JavaScript and do it this different way.
So it's kind of like a subset of the whole effect thing, and it's just keeping the promises replacement, I guess.
Yeah, a subset of the problems that they're trying to solve.
I see. That sounds good. Like a good introduction, I guess. And then you can go further if you want or not.
I think it's interesting though, and the reason why I'm like reading so much about it and playing with it is because I think this is going to shape the future of programming language design. I think because that notion of structured concurrency only came up in 2016. It's not like a very old like coined term, though like principally they're like similar things that have existed in the past. But I think like languages in the future are going to likely do something in this shape. Anyway.
Okay.
The example that you showed of using the timeout is certainly the thing that starts to connect the dots for me. Like there's still a lot that I don't understand or get with it. But that is a nice example because it does feel like you're really just decorating that function, versus like having to like people always talk about like declarative versus imperative code. It feels way more declarative. Like this function is going to have a timeout associated with it versus me having to actually write how the timeout exists, and that seems really nice.
Yeah. I think it's this guarantee that like things will be cleaned up. You're guaranteed that things will be like when it goes out of this scope, it will be cleaned up. And that's the nice thing.
Yeah. So the cleaning up aspect of it, like, I guess when you initially started talking about it, what I was thinking about was like often like we'll use promises to call an API or something like that to go do a thing somewhere else. The cleaning up aspect of it, you have to account for that in whatever sorts of APIs or any of the things that you're actually going to be contacting, right? Like that's not something you'll ever get for free. Though potentially like maybe down the line, like if this kind of thing starts to take over, like we do start to build protocols or methods of contacting different servers that do handle the cleanup for you. But I think that's the part that is, for me, it feels like it would be such a big lift to do all of that cleanup, just instrument that cleanup work. And that I think is like where I'm kind of like, wow, I don't think I'm ready for that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think like, in a lot of async await code in JavaScript, you just don't handle errors or race conditions or anything. You just like most of the time, you're just like, I hope this is going to work. And it's not even that. It's just like you don't actually think about it. You don't think, oh, what's going to happen when this thing cancels? Because if you tried to be super defensive and super safe everywhere something was used, your code would be awful. It'd be terrible.
Yeah.
And nobody would want to use it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like there's a lot of, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, no. I think that's just the thing. It's like
the things that I associate with being easy are only easy because I'm not doing a very good job of them. Like I could and should be doing a lot more, I think is maybe.
It's debatable, right? Because it's like if
you're not calling me out. I'm calling myself.
No. Well, no, I think be more kind to yourself because it's like the tools aren't, or the language isn't really written in a way to make these things ergonomic. So it's like
exactly.
The happy path is the easy path, and like the unhappy path is like very unhappy, So it's like,
that's a super good point. It makes me want to keep my eye on that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and listen to your podcasts to hear you talk about that stuff.
I have listened to a bunch of episodes. It's good, but I definitely missed the Mizu one, so I'll listen to that this weekend for sure.
Yeah, definitely check it out. It was really good.
Nice.
Cool.
Steve, do you want to show us?
Yeah, I can try to do some stuff real quick. Let me just make sure that I have things available to me right here. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. I am going to talk a little more about aerospace, which I have also talked about in the past. Entire screen. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go to, let's just go to, I don't actually remember what the URL is for this thing. Just a very, very, very quick reminder of what this is. Aerospace, an i3-like tiling window manager for macOS. I don't actually know what i3 is. But it kind of, it's most prominently a tiling window manager. However, what I have found it to be the most useful for, and what the reason that I'm talking about it today, because Pavlos was kind of asking me about this, is that it also handles a lot of virtual workspace problems. So this is the page of the docs that I fell in love with. Like, they instantly hooked me. Native macOS spaces, sorry, macOS spaces have a lot of problems. Animation, I don't really care about. Limit of spaces, I don't really care about. Deleting, reordering spaces, moving windows between spaces with hotkeys, yes, all these things are horrible. Being able to name spaces, why doesn't it exist? I don't know. Okay, so what I wanted to do very quickly is, nope, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to jump over to my my aerospace configuration. I'm unable to actually run aerospace while I share my screen, because for some reason it gets very hot. CPU spins up, and basically everything freezes on me. So what I have done instead is I've recorded some videos about some of the common things that I do with it. But to kind of navigate that, what I'm going to do is walk through my configuration. First thing here that we'll see when we go through the demo is that at startup, I have it start the Janky Borders app, which you'll see in the demos. Just adds a border around the current window so that you can tell which one is highlighted. Let's see what else is interesting here. So there's some default settings that I have in my configuration that actually, this is in the default configuration, but I default so that I tile instead of accordion. I'll show you a video just to kind of demonstrate the difference between those. And let me see if I can find that video. It is right here. Let's open it. You can see the video, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, I'll play it. Tiles versus accordions. I will try to walk through. So I have three windows that are kind of tiled. These are in a tiled format right here. They're next to each other. I didn't place them. Aerospace placed them for me. I just had three windows open. Now I've switched over to using, this is now in an accordion format. You can tell that it's an accordion because it leaves a little bit of a gap there with the one behind it. And so then I can navigate through these different windows. I'll show you how I'm doing that a little bit later. And then I can switch back to the tiling if I want to. So I have some shortcuts that I'll show you a little bit later that that do that. But that's just the difference between tiling and accordions. There's a whole bunch of settings here that I don't care about. We're just going to skip those. I don't really care about this, but I actually care about it more than I thought I did. I like having little gaps between the windows, so that you just see like a little sliver of your desktop. I don't really know why that's nice, but it seems aesthetically pleasing to me. Okay, so then we get into this portion of the configuration where we talk about binding or modes. I'm sorry. When you open Aerospace, you are in a mode named main. And main is the default mode where you can do most things. They give you this all comes from the default configuration, a whole bunch of help information, but let's get to my bindings. At the very, very simplest, focus left, focus down, focus up, focus right. That's going to move the selected window, or it's going to select a different window from the one that you have. So very quickly, let's show that video. Video 2 is right here. And I've got Keycaster sending my keys here, which sometimes I probably went a little fast, but you can see the highlighted border kind of changing all over the place. That's me hitting those keystrokes to move from one window to the next, and it's kind of just a nice often I would use like Command Tab to do that, or something like that to switch between things. But this is like you actually just switch between the windows that you're seeing in front of you, which is kind of nice.
Mm.
All right. And then more advanced focusing. So, workspaces, you can define whatever workspaces you want in Aerospace. The way that it manages them is not through proper Mac OS spaces. It uses a virtual space workspace system where it just creates a gigantic Mac OS native space and moves things around on it, so that it looks like you're jumping from one workspace to the next. Here I'm defining all of the commands to basically focus on one of my workspaces. And then the command is workspace, which comes from, that's an Aerospace command, and then the name of the workspace. Now it's weird because I have my workspace names defined as a number and then parentheses and then a name. That's because I like having dedicated workspaces for a handful of different things that I do regularly. So I have a workspace devoted to communications. So all my email windows sit there, or like Slack windows, that kind of thing. I have different workspaces for the different projects that I'm working on, like Friends with Code. All the Friends with Code things I typically do on that workspace. Art things like manipulating images I do on that workspace. And since I've been working so hard on like curating this configuration, which it does kind of take a lot of effort, I have a workspace where I just store like my dot files and my Aerospace help windows, that kind of thing. So this just defines shortcuts to navigate to those workspaces. Out of the box, it'll just be numbered. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. But I kind of hacked it. I wanted to be able to name them, and you can name them. Like I could do like a whatever, but this is just how I ended up doing it. And you'll see when I show more videos that you can see in the main menu bar when you're running Aerospace that whichever one is selected, it will say, you will see this text in the top. So I always know which of these workspaces I'm on. Let's see. If in traditional or in Mac OS native spaces, you have the control right, control left to navigate right and left between workspaces. We can just simulate that here in Aerospace. However, the key with this one is you also need to turn off the Mac OS shortcuts, so that they'll actually reach Aerospace, because otherwise it'll just intercept it and think you mean Mac OS native spaces. Control Alt Tab is a really nice one to bounce back and forth between two workspaces. So I have a video to kind of just quickly demo these things. Aerospace 3 right here. Focusing workspaces. So I'm on 7 sprouts. Now I'm on here. Sorry, if I put my cursor over it, it makes it go away. The 7 sprouts, 6 art, etc. I'm using that nav bar thing to navigate between them. I can use shortcuts to go previous and next. I can use shortcuts to I think is this moving things? I'm not sure what that last part was doing. Basically bouncing between workspaces with shortcut keys. I think I had one in here that was probably doing it with a number, and I missed that one. Anyways,
Okay.
navigating with keyboard shortcuts, very nice. And then we get into moving things. So moving a window up, down, left, right in that kind of like grid structure that Aerospace automatically creates for me, or joining two windows together. So it keeps Aerospace keeps basically a tree structure of your windows, to kind of model where things are going. And if you want to, you can join two windows together, and they'll be, you kind of saw that in the demos I showed already, where it'd be like two of them taking half on the left side, but one of them on the right side. So these two are joined together over here. This one is not joined with the others. So doing that with shortcut keys, and then moving the current window to one of the workspaces, and then similar to like the next previous, also being able to move to the next space or move to the previous space. And then, yep, so then I have a video just to kind of show that stuff. Number 4. This one I think is I'm probably gonna have to stop it along the way. Moving windows. Okay, so here I'm just selecting, but then I move windows within each other. So like, oh, I joined first, actually. I joined those together with keystrokes. And then eventually I'm moving it left and right here. And then I think I move it to another screen at some point. There, it just went to another workspace. I went over to that other workspace to see that it's there, moved it back to the previous workspace. So that's basically all the moving things that you can do. One thing I will say about this is like out of the box, the configuration does something that annoys me. That annoys me about my keyboard, which is like why after I got my new keyboard, I like it took me like an hour before I was like, nope, this layout does not work for me. Doing the same actions, the same types of actions should require the same keystrokes. So like that's why I have this configuration kind of organized like this. All of the move configurations should be similar enough in the modifiers that are associated with it that I generally can figure out what the modifiers are so that I can remember. I think in the default configuration, it does some different things where like the modifiers for moving to a workspace are different enough from moving within the same screen that it just is like, it's hard for my brain to, figure out which one of those things I'm doing. That's my rant. Okay. I know we're just about out of time here. I'll try to get some better stuff. We also have the ability to define custom modes. So I have a layout mode where once I jump into layout mode, and I jump into layout mode by hitting Alt comma, then I can change the layout. So I leave these focus windows or focus commands here because I still want to move around while I'm in layout mode. But then I can swap things between tiles and accordions easily, or I can resize things easily. Or if I do resize things, I can then balance them so that they're evenly balanced again, or evenly distributed. Or if I'm doing a bunch of joining and I'm just like, this doesn't make sense anymore, I need to start from scratch, I can just reset everything, and then I end up with like 4 tiles right next to each other, and then I can go join them. I'm going to skip this video just for the sake of time because I don't think it's quite as interesting as some of the later stuff. And then we can also do things like there's the concept of floating versus tiling. So if there are some windows that you don't want Aerospace to manage in its tiling format, you can just say that it's a floating window and you can move it wherever you want, size it however you want, do whatever you want with it. It just doesn't factor into Aerospace's layout. Maybe I will show this real quick because I think, Pavlos, this starts to kind of address some of your concerns that you've talked about in the past. I think there's like 5 or 6. 5. That's wrong. I think it's 6. No, actually, this is the wrong one. Oh yeah, there. So I made this one floating. I can put it wherever I want. It's great. You can even I'll stop it right there. You could see how I could move that wherever I wanted to. We can also basically, if I look at the end of this, we can assign specific apps to be floating.
To always be
So
floating.
I could just say like Zoom is always going to be a floating window. Todoist is always going to be a floating window because when you try to work it in, I just don't like the size of it. Finder is another one. So we have the ability to do that. We also have the ability to assign them to a particular workspace if there's an app that you only use on one workspace, which could be nice. We're out of time. I'm gonna just go to like the kind of the last most interesting thing. The one thing that I think macOS spaces make me so mad about is that when I restart my computer, I have to move stuff back to the spaces that they were on. Sometimes it's linked, sometimes it's in the correct place when it starts up, but most apps it's not. And Aerospace is actually the same. If I close Aerospace, I've got to go reassign all those apps to the spaces, and that is a horrifying experience. So I ended up writing a couple of scripts that actually do this using the aerospace CLI. So what my save will do is it'll call aerospace, list windows command, dump all of the windows that are currently open on my entire desktop, make sure to capture the workspace that they're currently on and the window ID, and save them in a JSON format. Oops. To some file in my root, aerospace windows.json. So I just make sure I do that on a regular basis. I probably could like automate that so that I don't have to worry about it. Then I have one called restore, which takes that file, looks through all of it, and it runs JQ. Grabs all current open windows, basically so that I could see what the window ID is of them. And then tries to align them. So like the window ID in my current state needs to be moved to the workspace ID that I had in that JSON file. So this just kind of like loops through, and I think I have this in, nope, that's the wrong one. Number 8. Where'd you go? The save and restore. It's a really crude mechanism that I'm using to do this. It's not built into aerospace, but it does allow me to basically like, I can, here I'm just like going through all of my different spaces. Oops, I moved my cursor so you can't see that the space name is changing in that top bar. So now 7 sprouts. I just saved my layout. I have a little notification that says that I saved it. Cool, good job, Steve. And then I'm gonna kill aerospace here, and then we'll see once I quit it, you'll see everything's just in one space. That's how aerospace works with macOS Spaces. It just leaves everything there. So then I restart aerospace, and now everything is back on that first space. Every single window that I had open. Horrifying. As you can see, as I go through all the other spaces, there's nothing on any of them. But then if I do run my my restore command, the alt comma and then R, all those windows get moved back where they were. Happiness. They're maybe not in the same layout that they were. Like you may have noticed there were like 3 side by side that weren't 3 side by side before, but this at least gets them in the correct place. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen because we're like over here. But that's all my talking in my demo.
Is your configuration somewhere already, like on GitHub or something? And
Yep,
the scripts?
Okay. I have it's in my dot files. Both the scripts are there, though I broke the script for restoring by trying to make it smarter because I mentioned window IDs. As soon as you restart the computer, those window IDs are different, and because it's just like the process ID. And so what I'm trying to do is make it smarter so that if it can't find a window ID that matches, it'll look it up by like the app. And if that matches, then maybe like the name of the open file shows in that list of running windows, and maybe I can like line it up by that instead of the ID. But I messed it up because Claude and I collaborated on a very, very complicated JQ script that doesn't work anymore. So I think I'm gonna try to convert that script to be JavaScript based so that I can write tests and stuff and actually understand it. Was my goal.
Interesting. Okay. I definitely need to play around with this a little bit more. It feels like it could help with a bunch of things that I want to solve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It like is much better implementation of spaces than the native macOS. But it is like when you first fire it up, number one, like you have no muscle memory for any of those commands. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to show though, is that there is an Raycast extension for aerospace that just lists out all of your commands. So you don't need to, you can like kind of slowly learn them, which is really nice. But you're kind of like, you're like super helpless. I had to make myself a cheat sheet to be able to do that. And then also like modifying the configuration, like it takes a lot of investment to get it to do what you want to do with the keystrokes that you want to do.
I'm getting real Tmux vibes.
Yeah,
it is. That's exactly right. It's like Tmux, but for
Because you have the
that's what I
modal
want.
thing as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe I'll try it with just like default floating situation, and then just try and use it as a replacement for spaces, just to have like things where they're supposed to be, and
Yeah,
see if that
exactly.
helps enough. Okay, nice. Thanks for showing.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mm.
We're out of time, friends.
That
But
was great.
thanks for hanging with me.
Yeah.
And Justin, it's always really nice to see you.
So
Pavlos,
good
you
to see
too,
you.
but I feel like I see you more frequently.
You're bored of me already.
Cool.
But
All right.
yeah,
Any last
cool
words?
stuff.
Nope.
All right.
friends.
Take care.
Have a good one.
See you.
See
See ya. Bye
Bye.
bye.